Okay, welcome to another 5-minute short video on the Battle of Trenton and its influences on the American Revolution by yours truly, Mr. Bijuad. The Battle of Trenton occurred on December 26, 1776, when American Revolutionary forces crossed the Delaware River to attack Hessian soldiers in Trenton, New Jersey. The infamous crossing of the Delaware, as depicted in this painting, is actually completely inaccurate. As you will learn further along, the troops crossed in the middle of the night, in a cover of darkness, and although the water may have small chunks of ice in it, there was no way General Washington was standing up in the boat for fear of it actually capsizing on him. As you see on the map, Trenton, New Jersey is right along the Delaware River and located southeast of the landing site where the Americans landed. In this next picture, you will see Colonel Rahl. He was the commander of the Hessian regiment, who were mercenaries for the British Army in the Americas. Next, you'll see a face you're familiar with, General George Washington, Commander-in-Chief of the Revolutionary Forces, as appointed by the Continental Congress. He was in charge of around 2,600 men and 18 guns, and he was followed by his right-hand man, none other than Alexander Hamilton, who knew that the first head of the Treasury and the future president was an extremely important part of Washington's war party. Next, you see General Sullivan, one of Washington's major generals, who helped win at Trenton, followed by General Nathaniel Greene, another integral part of the win at Trenton, and you will hear these great men's name again as we talk about the battle plan. These generals all looked really spiffy, and the common myth is that soldiers on the American side generally had the same uniform and looked halfway decent. In fact, that wasn't true. Now, they may have been, well trained and knew how to fight, but they were more ragtag than you think. Most of the men wore whatever they had on their backs when they enlisted, or what they could scrounge up. Most didn't have boots, so in the winter they froze, and their feet were often bloody and soaked because they were covered in rags and they were forced on long marches that tore their feet up. They were often barely fed or paid, and clothing to them was very scarce and not available in the long months of winter. Often men only had muskets that they had brought with them, which were very inaccurate compared to rifles that the British and Hessians were fighting with. Their morale was low, and a majority of the enlistments for these men were up. If something didn't happen soon, the revolution wouldn't even have an army anymore. However, the Hessians, led by Colonel Rahl, were a formidable force. They were well-trained, equipped, and paid mercenaries who were styled in the European style of fighting, and they were feared by all over the world. They were some of the best soldiers, and Washington feared that as soon as the Delaware River froze, these Hessians would come across the river and attack them, and take the opportunity to wipe the revolutionary forces out for good. As you can see on the map area here, Washington crossed the river and then led his men down on the march to Trenton. Trenton was located several miles southeast of Washington's position. Here you see another painting of Washington on his famous white horse after he crossed, and him leading the men down to Trenton. At this time of the crossing, it was freezing, raining, snowing, with icebergs forming in the river. Not the easiest or most comfortable way to cross the river with all the men and equipment. But nothing was lost, and the crossing itself was a success, except for the loss of a few people that never made it across, and we will talk about that further on. Now next you see the revolutionary forces marching at night. Now many townspeople did see them coming, and what Washington did was held them captive until after the battle started. Some, however, who were loyalists, attempted to reach Colonel Rahl and warn them of the impending attack. But Rahl didn't heed the warning, as he thought it was a falsity. The plan was to have General Ewing seize the bridge over Assunpink Creek to prevent escape back to Princeton, where the British were. I'll try to say that 10 times fast. Now, this didn't actually occur, as General Ewing was never able to get across, and so in the end, what had happened is that they had General Sullivan cover over. Now, as you see, it was supposed to be a pre-dawn attack, but because of the weather, it didn't happen until 8 a.m. The myth of the Hessians being drunk from Christmas is a falsity, although they were probably sleepy and lazy that morning from celebrating the night before. However, since General Ewing didn't make it, General Sullivan covered over and tried to stop the escape of any of the Hessian soldiers going back to Princeton, while Washington and Greene had entered from the south in order to attack and circle around Trenton. The attack no doubt startled them, the Hessians that is, and any attempt they made at forming lines and counterattacking was foiled by General Knox and his artillery. What you know now is, Fort Knox and stuff like that is named after General Knox. Soon the Hessians were surrounded and they had to surrender. In the end, Hessian suffered about 22 fatalities, 83 wounded, and 896 captured, and some did escape to Princeton and warn the British of what was happening. Colonel Rahl himself was killed in the fighting. After the fighting, Washington knew he didn't have the forces to continue. So he returned back to his base on the other side of the river, and this, even though there was an attack and they won but sort of lost, it was still a huge win for them because it was the first time they've ever attacked and won anything. He was able to boost the morale of the country, boost the morale of Continental Congress, and get some more re-enlistments and get some more people and get some more money from the government, and really help turn the tide of the American Revolution. Thank you for listening, and you can keep looking back at this for future reference on your further assignments.